Hi there, good afternoon or good evening, and we are back with a more in-depth analysis as compared to the first impression. So those of you who are joining in now, we'll give you a quick overview. Thereafter, we plan to dive into each one of these three sections in relatively greater depth. And then, of course, we can sit down and discuss each and every question threadbare once the papers are out and available. So,
hello everyone, good evening. So we are back here with this analysis part now, and I'm sure you all must be having those butterflies in the stomach yet. I mean, because now you would be जो होता है एग्जाम के बाद when you get to know about the answers, कितने सही हुए, कितने गलत हुए. So we always want to know that, and we also want that जितना हो सके सही answers आए उतना बेहतर है. So we will be discussing all these questions, not if not all, at least most of the questions in this session. So in the first impression we just talked about paper कैसा दिख रहा था, difficult, आसान कैसा लग रहा था, what type of questions were there. Now we'll be talking about the questions themselves. कि किस तरह क्या क्या क्वेश्चंस आए थे और कुछ के आंसर्स भी डिस्कस करेंगे इसमें.
हाँ मतलब लगा यार we are able to recall what around 50, 60, 70% of the questions, and we can at least look into those. For some of those questions we also have answer choices available. We can go ahead and start talking about those. So that's how it is really going to pan out.
At least at the end of the session इतना हो जाएगा कि इतने मार्क्स तो हमारे आ रहे हैं, इतना तो श्योर है, इतने आंसर्स ठीक हो रहे हैं, तो इसका मतलब इतने मार्क्स तो मिल गए हैं. You'll have that confidence, right? So शुरू करते हैं.
So let's see what do we have. Okay, so here is the overall structure. It was more or less similar to last year's structure in terms of the total number of questions. So we still had 66 questions, and the breakup across all the three sections and their sequence, all of them were similar. In VARC, instead of 3 non-MCQs this time around, we had 4 non-MCQs. So 1 non-MCQ went up. And here is in DILR, we had 9, I think, non-MCQs.
Okay.
In slot 2, I think we had 9. In that coin set, we had 3 non-MCQs. So this is 9 and quant is 8, which I think is more or less in the same ballpark as last year.
Absolutely.
The only change is in the difficulty level for one of the sections for sure, where quant has moved into the territory of being moderate to difficult, whereas DILR was moderate, although I thought that maybe a couple of those.
But once again, sir, as we were discussing, that out of these 4 questions, of course, there is an extra question, but those 2 questions are odd one outs.
Those were paragraph. I think we'll eventually, when we have the breakup, we'd probably pick that up. And then, did you also notice that there was a question with an asterisk and it was marked mandatory? I don't know why and how, what that was. So that came out of blue. So let's go ahead and look at the comparison between slot 1 and slot 2. And I think we don't really have much to pick and choose. Both of them appear to be more or less identical across all the 3 sections. So diving into specifically the first impression of VARC. So we had 24 questions, 4 RC passages. 2 RC passages were easy to read, whereas there was another couple of passages would have challenged somebody who's not a good reader. And as usual, every passage was followed by 4 questions each. RC was difficult compared to last year, not in terms of the subject matter, but the number of tricky questions, the number of questions where the answer choices were close and ambiguous, that increased, and that could have challenged you a bit. And then paragraph odd one out made a re-entry after a very brief hiatus, very brief break of 1 year, and then
DILR. So we had still the same 4 number of sets, 5 questions each, exactly like last year. There were a total of 20 questions. But as we discussed in the first impression as well, last year when we saw LRDI, or even last to last year, then again we had 20 questions. Now, the year before last, that is in 2021, we had 2 sets of 4 questions each and 2 sets of 6 questions each. It was a little easy to figure out that, okay, probably 6 questions sets would be slightly lengthier than the 4 question sets. So we could even gauge that initially. But last year when there were 4 sets of 5 questions, so there we did not know that which set is going to be easy, which set is going to be difficult, because all are having 5 questions, right? So we had to filter out the easier ones and difficult ones. When I talk about this year's LRDI, specifically what I found different from last year, one thing was that this time it was not easy to find out that which set is to be done first, which is the easiest set, you can say. As we have discussed before, when we tell you that, okay, how do you check which questions are to be done in LRDI, which are not to be done? We say that, okay, first look out for those topics which you are familiar with. Then talk about those sets which you can interpret easily. So suppose there is a set on games and tournaments, I'm familiar with it, but the data given to me, I'm not able to interpret it easily. So in that case, probably we should be leaving it. But this time, all 4 sets have almost an equal length, right? But there was one set which was a set of boxes and there were some coins put into it. So there was a figure given to you on the pen. Generally, when a figure is given to us, something like that, and there were some asterisks as well on that. And then he talked about the median number of coins. If it is followed by 1 asterisk, then this would happen. If it is followed by 2 asterisks, then this would happen. So that clearly told us that this set is going to be difficult. And yes, it was the most difficult set. So that's primarily about DILR.
So the question stem, no, initially I read it, it looked like the Ali Baba Chalis Church.
Yeah, because
there are 3 rows of 3 boxes each. Every box has 3 pouches. Every pouch has coins between 1 to 9, both inclusive. Yeah, so
सुमंत इज सेइंग मैंने मैंडेटरी वाला अटेम्प्ट नहीं किया, मेरे ख्याल से आपने भी नहीं किया ना?
मैं तो जानबूझ के नहीं किया सुमंत, तू और मैं सेमी बोट में, लेकिन देख आगे
कर देना चाहिए,
भाई कर देना चाहिए।
When GAT authorities are saying it,
नॉन एमसीक्यू कौन सा नेगेटिव मार्क यार, जब देख रहा है मैंडेटरी तो करके आना चाहिए ना।
and we don't have anything to lose.
And frankly, MBA course said that is it a new variety? Yeah, this definitely was a new insertion in the directions. We've never seen that before. Let us see what the practical implications are.
Absolutely. Currently, we do not know exactly what does it mean, why an asterisk was there. Because without that also you could move to the next question. I mean, I don't know. Rather, honestly speaking, that asterisk should be from our side to them, that, okay, if it's a theta question and that to an odd one out, having only 5 possibilities, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyways, there are 20% chances of being correct, right? And you have nothing to lose. Right?
Absolutely.
So why don't you do that question? I mean, we should be telling it to all our students. These 2 questions are with an asterisk, with the odd one outs, because in a para jumble still you have 24 possibilities. 1, 2, 3, 4 can be arranged in 24 ways. But an odd one out has just 5 possibilities. Why would a person not do it? So even if that asterisk was not, then you should have done it. आपने नहीं किया, ये तो नहीं करना चाहिए था anyways.
Okay, yeah, Shruti, I think yes, para summary questions were leaning towards the easier side, and then ride set, Pratham says, was easier than others. At least that's my assessment too. But
yeah, even I felt that. Even I felt that.
To the rest, a little more doable. Ankit Vajra sir, no DI, no conventional DI. We wouldn't say there was no data interpretation.
Actually, as we were discussing about it, कि DI हम लोग generally किसको बोल देते हैं? When there is a graph, right? A line graph is there, bar graph is there. Now this time the graph was not there, but actually none of the questions was pure LR, because all of them had some mathematics involved in them, right? Even if you talk about that ride wala question, so we have to see that 20 plus 30 is becoming 50 or 50 is 50. Then probably we have to look at the times as well. So a little bit of that was involved. The coin question was a lot of, mathematics was used in it. Then the other question where he was giving you a 2-day average. So that was also, I would say, slightly on the easier side. But all these questions were using a little bit of mathematics in them. That was always there.
Absolutely.
Those who did not attempt mandatory, what will happen? Dhirendra, we can't say, what can happen, because even we are also confused at what exactly does that mean.
Normally, whenever any such thing comes up, the IIMs would usually include it in the instructions that are shown to you on the screen before you start the test. So in those instructions, there was nothing with respect to mandatory questions being there and that you cannot leave them unanswered or something. So let's see how it really pans out. But going by the standard interpretation of mandatory, I think to be on the safer side, we should have attempted it. Saral sir has already told you that even without that, we don't let theta questions go.
Absolutely.
Especially in VARC.
So let's talk further now. So the next thing that we have is quantitative aptitude. Now, this is one section, in my opinion, was the toughest today. Right, DILR, quantitative ability. Generally, it's not the case. Generally, LRDI section is the toughest. But this year we found that quantitative ability was the toughest section. And there is a reason for that. The biggest reason that I found, that I did not find any sitter question in the section. Sitter is a question which you say that, okay, this is directly based upon a concept that we have studied and straight away can be done in 25 or 30 seconds. For example, last year there was a question that there is a cask which is having some wine from which 9 liters is taken out and replaced with water. The process is done again and finally milk and water are in a ratio of 9:16. So what was the initial quantity? This we do. It's a routine question for us. When you study replacement, so we do this in routine. But today, when we had a question on replacements, right? Even if there was a routine question, but it was not that easy. They said, okay, from 40 liters, 4 liters is taken out and then it is replaced. So how many times I will have to do the processes that quantity of milk becomes lesser than the quantity of water, right? Now, this is not an easy question. Similarly, when you talk about arithmetic, the other questions of arithmetic, even they were not very straightforward. This time we had 3 questions from number system as well. A question which was based upon those factors and all that there are 2 more factors apart from 1 and the number itself. That was not very straightforward. Moreover, making it a theta question makes it difficult for you. So that was a theta question. The questions which were on geometry, they were also difficult, and algebra probably was the toughest within that toughest section of today. So in my opinion, quantitative ability definitely the easiest, toughest among them. Geometry was a little breezer, I would say, because 2 question geometry के ऐसे लग रहे थे जो हो जाएंगे. Though the coordinate geometry question once again was extremely difficult. Right? There were 3 questions from geometry. One was coordinate geometry, जो काफी difficult था. बाकी दोनों questions फिर भी doable लग रहे थे. एक का answer I think 1:2:1 or something was there, and the other one I don't remember. It was 2r square into ab divided by a square plus b square, something like that. So these were the questions. Yeah. So there was nothing written in instructions. I read 2 times. What instructions? Can you just tell me, Dhirendra? What are you talking about? I mean, which topic? Is he talking about asterisk question, I suppose?
I'm assuming it will be mandatory.
Asterisk question, huh?
There are a lot of questions on that.
Attempting 12 questions in Q and mostly theta. Pratham, we will be talking about that as well, that in QA section, if you would have done these many questions, what percentile you can expect. We will be coming to that part as well. I attempted 5 questions in QA. Do not feel bad about it, Neeraj. Even at 5 questions, in my opinion, you are definitely going to score more than 90 percentile in QA section if all 5 are correct, right? Any question from PNC? No question. Musico, you were not there? Right DILR answers someone from chat. Akash, if possible, we will be discussing that. देखते हैं अगर कर पाए तो. If I have the questions with me, probably we can talk about the answers. Was the answer 6 for replacement question? Yes, I think so. Okay. Let's move ahead then from here. I'll move to the next part of it. So that's about VARC. So let's call the god.
Okay, so let's just run through the slides first and then we'll dive into whatever questions I am able to recall. So a couple of questions from para summary, which these questions basically leaned towards being easy. Where did that option go? Which option is it? From here. Okay, so these are likely to be questions that are going to be on the easy to moderate side mostly, and you know by now that I'm a little partial to these questions. They are in a way a precursor to RC. Then we had a couple of para completion questions. They were introduced last year, exact same variety at more or less the same difficulty level, which was easy to moderate. Then we had 2 para jumbles and 2 paragraph odd one out. So paragraph odd one out made a reappearance at the expense of 1 para jumble question and 1 best summary question. So normally when I look at it, para jumble question and best summary questions both are relatively more time consuming. So in a way, purely by this shift, the time that you needed to spend on those 8 questions was reduced a bit. Number 2, both of these questions were non-MCQs, that is, no negative marking, and one of these was definitely doable. So you read it and with just a bit of thought, you would have realized that, okay, hey, this is the sentence that is the odd one out. In the other question, you had to exert a little more thought. So probably moderate to difficult. I'd be able to judge it once we have those questions. And then SN Uttam, I can't tell you, every year this is something that happens. people at times, we tend to skip reading the directions, and a lot of people, you're not alone, a lot of people start solving a paragraph odd one out question as if it were a para jumble question. So that's a bit about VA, and here is a comparison with the previous slot, more or less the same breakup, more or less a similar difficulty level. Now, reading comprehension. Okay, let me see if there is anything else on the next slide. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this then. So 4 passages, 16 questions as usual. Now, if I look at the mega trends, out of these 4 passages, 2 were easy to read. So easy to read because the subject matter that they dealt with was more mainstream. These are the kind of subject matters that you would have found typically in your newspapers and magazines, whereas there were other 2 passages which were not that easy to read, primarily because of the subject matter and the jargon involved. So which 2 am I talking about that are easy to read? So there was this one passage which essentially, although the beginning was a little ambiguous there, but it fundamentally talked about the content that is produced by Netflix and other streaming channels. They're gaining in popularity, yet the overall number of hours for which they are watched is not as high. Then the author talked about certain disadvantages. So centralized decision making in terms of the shows that are to be produced, which makes a lot of people, particularly European, wary. Then although they are going for translations and subtitles, but not everything works in translation, right? So that was relatively easy. And then there was this question which talked about second-hand clothing, easier to read. The 2 that were tougher to read were one that talked about history, positivists and the way they look at the history, and the other one was sorry, just bare minimum notes, a book review where the author of the book talked about liberalism and how it is going or it is declining, but the author of the passage disagreed with that particular assessment. So that's the overview, right? Now, if you dive deeper into each one of these passages, so we had this passage that talked about second-hand clothing, easy to read. So it said that there's this consumerist culture and we are moving towards new things. It's harmful for the environment. So there's a shift towards using those vintage or second-hand clothes. But then the author took a shift that you would generally not find in such articles, such passages. And that was that is this shift to second-hand articles really all that environment friendly? And he went on to talk about the issues with those second-hand clothings. Now, if I look at the questions of this particular passage, although it was easy to read, I would say that a couple of questions were definitely doable. So it had one main idea question, but instead of directly asking for the main idea, the author asked, okay, which one of the following undermines the central idea? So what would undermine the central idea? Anything that says that, hey, second-hand clothes are all right, or that the fast fashion companies are not all that bad, right? So that was there. And then you had this one inference-based question where they asked us about slow fashion most likely would be. So they defined fast fashion. They did not define slow fashion. But then we had to take the opposite of fast fashion to be true and then see which one goes farthest. So I think this was a moderate question. I'm putting it at moderate because over the past few months of working with each other, we've seen that there are some people who are not that comfortable with inference-based questions. Then we had a question which talked about, hey, why is thrifting ironic? What is the reason behind labeling thrifting as ironic? This was a specific detailed question. If you refer to the right part of the passage, this was a question which was easy to answer. And then similarly, why did Thread UP or Thread Up not caught on in Europe, which all of the following have been given as reasons except moderate question, because you had to refer to 2-3 different places in order to arrive at the answer. But on the whole, I would say this is a passage where I would expect every good student to go ahead and answer 2 questions right. Then content produced by streaming platforms, that Netflix thing that we talked about. Now, one of the questions in this passage asked us, the author sees the rise of Netflix in Europe as what? So, until the last paragraph of the passage, the author talked about the disadvantages. But in the last paragraph, his ideas took a shift where he said that this is going to be a good thing because in the past too, America has helped unify Europe, and Netflix can also do the same, and therefore the answer to this question should be a unifying force. Shubham Prabal, yaar, mujhe na, I'm not able to recall the exact answer choice. I actually started writing these, but then I eventually ended up spending so much time on a couple of passages that I lost the train of, lost my handle on time. So I could not really go ahead and jot down the answers for rest. But for the second passage, I did write down the questions and I do recall the answers that I marked. So I'll share that with you. So that was one. So this was an inference-based question. And because that shift happened in the last passage, and last passage is something that usually remains fresh in the memory, I'd say this is more of a moderate question and should have been answered by a lot of people, yes. Then we had this question which talked about which of the following weakens the conclusion given in the final paragraph. So the conclusion was it will act as a unifying force. So there was a particular answer choice that talked about wide variance in the popularity and viewing of Netflix shows, something along these lines. And that, so one of the central thesis was, how do you unify? Because everybody is watching more or less the same show, so they have that common cultural thread. So, in fact, you won't even probably know this, but Saral sir and I would know, when we were young, we had only one channel, Doordarshan. And if you watch a serial, there was only one episode every week and everybody watched that same serial. Because there is only one channel. So when you go to school, you know that everybody has watched that particular episode of Spider-Man or that particular episode of whatever other show that was popular back then. So it became a cultural phenomenon and that acted as a unifying force. I'm sure you would have probably read it in some article or the other where people said that there was a time, remember during the lockdown, Ramayana and Mahabharata were re-telecast. So there was a time when they were originally telecast and the entire nation came to a standstill. So that kind of an impact can be built through Netflix for Europe. So that option which talked about the wide variance is the one that went on to contradict it. Then there was a question which was challenging, which hypothetical show is going to be most successful in Europe or European Union? So a couple of them were easy to rule out. But then there was an option that talked about transatlantic romance show between an American and a European. And then there was a murder mystery in Europe and set up in Europe and North Africa. Which one of these two you think is a more likely answer choice? So this is, remember CBSE uses this term called HOTS, higher order thinking skill questions. So these are in RC known as further application questions. So you had to refer to 3 different parts of the passage, infer something, then apply that inference to each one of those answer choices, then eliminate. This is going to make it a difficult question for a lot of people. So pretty challenging, pretty demanding. I am leaning more towards murder mystery because the older generation is watching it more. Younger generation is on the cell phones. And for them, besides the previous history of successful shows also tells you in the very first paragraph, there was a mention of hot units and bloodthirsty maelstorms between Romans and tribesmen, etc., being more popular as compared to some other varieties. So
even the
moves.
last line of the paragraph was saying that the North European and the South European people, they would want 1,000 years ago, what kind of...
With 1,000 years ago, so instead of fighting in person, they can basically fight over these things, essentially. So leaning more towards that direction, but definitely a challenging question. And then there was a specific detail question, which I believe was easy. All of the following are true except which one? So there was a very easy answer choice that said that Netflix has transformed into a truly European identity, but the passage very clearly, very directly contradicted it, that although their offices are spread, but the central decision making is still in the America, and that is why the Europeans, particularly the politicians, were a little wary. So that, because it contradicted it, it made it easy for us to identify that particular answer choice. So that's a bit about our second passage. Then third one was a passage that was a book review, but if you start reading the passage, you would not have realized that it is a book review until around the second last paragraph. It is only in the last paragraph that the book and the author were introduced. Now, what made it challenging was the fact that it brought in a bit of political theory. So if you do not know much about liberalism, it would have been an issue. But those of you who read a lot of contemporary article on right wing and left wing, and especially you notice a lot of liberal movements and the direction they are taking at times are criticized in the mainstream media. So some of those arguments are similar. So the book basically picked up liberalism, its core ideas, criticized it and said that liberalism is going to be dead. But the author of the passage said that no, the author is distorting that core, and liberalism in the past has proved its resilience by looking at criticism within itself and fixing things thereafter. So in terms of the subject matter, the passage was a little on the challenging side. And I remember one of the questions was, the author faults the conclusion of the book for all the reasons except. So this was more or less a specific detail question, but the answer choices were not directly taken from the passage. So the amount of effort and time that was spent on restating those ideas presented in the passage made it led to a situation where we definitely had to look at every answer choice carefully and then map it with the passage. So that made it a moderate question. Then there was a question which I found was easy. Why were the Davos elite mentioned? So you remember we often talk about the purpose of an example or an illustration. So this, I think the answer was to do with hypocrisy. The one that had hypocrisy involved in it. In that context, I felt this was an easy question, but the other two questions were once again tricky. I'm not able to recall it. We're just using miscellaneous as a placeholder for the time being, but once we are able to recall it, I think we can definitely go ahead and talk about it. Then the fourth passage. Which one did I? Okay, positivist. So this is a passage which was based on history. Very, very interesting proposition. So the passage talked about a set of people called positivists. And those positivists, in order to think of history or convert history into a science, they threw their weight behind the cult of facts. And then there was a discussion that at the end of the day, facts, they are objective and they are the ones that can actually tell you the real truth. But then in the first paragraph itself, the author gave a hint that he's not going to agree, because the next line was, a particular author said that facts are the core and the rest of all is pulp. But the author said that that person forgets that pulp is the actual juicy part. And thereafter, he talks about why people who support cult of facts support it, and why that cult of facts should not be supported. So there were two reasons cited by him. So one was that a lot of facts are very obvious facts and they are not very important or essential for what a historian should be doing. And then the second fact was that the second criticism was that facts themselves are not very objective. what all facts you present and the sequence in which you present those facts, that makes a lot of difference. So you can at times cherry pick and create a particular narrative even when you pick up facts. So we all have that kind of bias according to the author. So that is what the passage was about. So slightly challenging to read, but then if I look at the questions, there was a question that talked about which of the following describes the common sense view of, all of the following describe the common sense view of history except. Now the problem is, common sense view was used in the first paragraph and the second paragraph. So you had to refer to two different paragraphs. This in itself adds a layer of complexity. Then, so that could have, so it's a specific detailed question that could have been tricky, but then what the examiner did was, in one of the answer choices, he used only. This was something that was not supported by the passage. Only the positivist method can lead to something, something. And because it was not presented through that process of elimination, it became easier for us to go ahead and pick up that particular answer choice. Then we had a question, significance of archaeology for historians. So once again, if you go to the right paragraph, it would become clear, but once again, it was not that obvious. The answer choices had a lot of restatements from the passage. So the one that talked about helps ascertain factual accuracy came closest to that particular idea. But I'd still say a moderate question, maybe an easy question in this passage. Then there was a question that asked us which of the following weakens except. This is a question that we have practiced a lot together thanks to the fact that we got a lot of these questions last year. And there was this particular answer choice that talked about facts like truth can be relative. Different people would have different interpretations. So that should have been the answer here. And then the fourth question in the passage was, if the author of the passage were to write a book on Battle of Hastings, the focus will be on. Now here, I've not jotted down which option I chose, but I do remember two of those answer choices were easy to rule out. The remaining two were options where you really had to think close and hard. One talked about nuanced interpretation based on empirical evidence. And there was this other talked about that that the author will look at socio-cultural and economic impact of or context of something. So I had to be one of those two. The other two were easy to rule out. I don't even recall which one I actually opted for in the exam. I remember I marked an answer choice and then marked it for review and then ran out of time this time around. So that's how the four passages broke down. So as usual, if I were to compare it to last year, in terms of subject matter, same. We had a couple of easy passages, a couple of difficult passages in terms of subject matter. So that bit was identical. But one basic difference is that the answer choices were not as tricky last year as they were in quite a few of the questions. So I'd say that if somebody could attempt around, say, 10 questions in RC last year, a good student, and got them right, people would probably be targeting more of around 8 questions. I'd say 6 to 8 question range is a really good range, a healthy range for people to get right in RCs, but it got compensated somewhat by verbal ability with that introduction of 2 odd one out questions, both of them theta. So I'd say 6 to 8 questions from RC, another 4 to 5 questions from VA. So my gut feel is that overall, I think the difficulty level appears quite similar to CAT 22, maybe a shade more difficult, but let's see how that pans out. Okay, because once I am able to have a look at the exam again after the paper, we'd probably be able to, and then of course by discussing these things with you, we'd probably be able to go ahead and look at this better. Now here is a comparison of slot 1 and slot 2. So as you can see, there's a passage on human psychology. See, I did not write slot 1, but I find this a bit ambiguous. If anybody here has gone in for slot 1, can you just expand on the theme of this particular passage for me? on one hand it says psychology and then it says geographical, non-geographical without using the word brain, and that stumps me. Then a passage on Indian Ocean, wolves and their impact, colonialism. Now if I look at slot 2, a couple of them were easy to read. The moderate is in total by taking the difficulty level of the questions into account, but I'd say slightly more difficult as compared to slot 1 going by this analysis, but I'm relying on just the figures that are here. We'd see once we are able to go through all of these questions. So anyone was, I think people are discussing a lot of DI or quant, but so that's a comparison there. And then let's dive into DILR.
Actually, DILR and quant are easy to remember, right? That what answers you have got in English,
unless you write it
that,
down,
right?
It becomes an issue.
It becomes very difficult in verbal ability to remember what answers did we get. Okay, so let's start talking about DILR now, and I also see that many discussions are happening, especially around the 2-3 questions. But I'll start before I get some likes here. So I see around 110 people watching, just 26-27 likes. So please take it above 100, then we'll start talking about the answers of questions of LRDI and quant as well. Okay, many discussions are there. So I'll start with LRDI. There were 4 sets in LRDI, and as I said, I found this set as the most difficult one. The one with 9 boxes, 3 pouches and coins. Of course, I did not do it, or you can say I could not do it. Did not get into it the moment I started looking at the set. So, okay, I understood that there is a box in which these coins are put. Then he gave you those definitions of those asterisks and all. That was the first point where I stopped, right? When he said, if there is one asterisk, then one of these 3 statements, at least one of these 3 statements is correct. If there are 2 asterisks, then at least 2 of the 3 statements are correct. And that somehow told me that it is going to be a lengthy question then, right? I'll have to look at the medians first. Some of the figures were missing, right? The medians were given. He said the rows had equal sum, the columns had equal sum. Then when the asterisk thing came, at that very moment, I stopped that, okay, I'm not going to do this question. That's what I decided at that time. Okay. Now, we'll start talking about the other sets as well. Whatever answers I remember, I'll be just talking about those one by one now. So first of all, the set of scheduling, the amusement park set. I found this to be probably the easiest among the 4. Right? Though I would not see it was an easy set. It was easy to moderate for sure, but definitely easiest among the 4. Right? There were the 3 ladies who went to an amusement park. There were 4 rides there. So the rides were costing 20, 50, 30 and 40. And after that, some information was given that each ride was of 1 hour, and ride 3 cannot be used after 1 p.m. And every ride opens up at an interval of half an hour. So things like that were given to us, if you guys remember that. ये सब हम लोगों को वहाँ उन्होंने बताया था. And then he talked about A, B and C. What all rides are they taking? Probably you can get some idea about your answer as well from that. So what I remember, थोड़ा बहुत, हालांकि I differ here with the other faculty member who appeared for this exam. Unfortunately, I just know one more faculty member apart from me, and we differ in the answers. So of course, being an old man, I would assume कि मैं गलत रहा होऊंगा, शायद वो ठीक रहे होंगे. तो I think the whole thing was around this person A, right? There were 3 people, A, B and C, and everything was around B, around A. He said that before 12:15 everyone had spent the same amount, and that same amount would have been 50 rupees because one of the ladies had spent 50 rupees, and that 50 could have been spent with 20 plus 30 only. So probably you all would have figured it out. Now the 2 things that are coming out here, that I got 3 rides for the person A. And of course, that changes almost all the questions, because in one of the questions he was asking what is the total amount spent by A. So I got it at 90 rupees. So, but he has got the answer that the total amount spent is 140 rupees and the rides that A has got is equal to 4. So, of course, both of them are possible now. Which one is correct? So, if you have got the answer of 4 rides with 140 rupees spent, you are correct, right? And if you have got the answer that 3 rides with 90 rupees spent, then again you are correct. So but till the time I think the answer sheet is there with you, the result is there with you, just keep assuming that you are the right person. Why to think negative about it? So currently I do not know. Of course, if within 3 or 4 days the response sheet would be out, the question paper would be there with us. We will be discussing all these questions in detail, right? Each and every question would be discussed there in detail, and after that I am sure things would be very clear to you. काफी कुछ आपको उस वक्त भी clear हो जाएगा. Second thing, so this set, as I just discussed, this set I did not do. The third set, which was a reasoning based DI set, and the fourth set, which was mathematical AR based set, which was based upon some balls are taken out from the bags. They can have any kind of numbers from 1 to 9. So I'll just write down the solution as far as I remember. ठीक है, मैं उसके बारे में आपको बता देता हूँ जो मेरा आंसर आया है, और वो मेरे ख्याल से मेरा आंसर ठीक था. That one person had multiples of 3 only, if you remember that. So that multiples of 3 were 3, 9, 6, 6 and 6. I'm sure you also would have got it. 3, 9, 6, 6, 6. And the total of all these, total was given as, I think, 15, and then 16, and then 16, and then 17 and 18. These were the sums, if I'm not wrong. है ना? So their average was given as 15.5. Their average was given as 16, and their average was given as 16.5, and their average was given as वो 2 day average कुछ उन्होंने निकाल के दिया था ना, तो उससे शायद ये 15, 16, 16, 17, 18 जो मुझे हल्का हल्का याद आ रहा है. I might be making some mistake at some point. So these were the numbers, and this number was 3. Even the first person has this number of 3 here, and that made this. I think ये भी 16 रहा होगा, फिर हो सकता है 3 plus 6 9 plus I think ये मेरा 7 आया था, if I'm not wrong. And these two numbers, they were both 5. ये तो मैं तकरीबन श्योर हूँ, ये 5 ही आए थे. And this number was also 7. 7 plus 3 10 plus 5 15. And then there were 2 options for these cases, right? If you guys remember. तो ये आपका पास जो options आए थे, I think they were 3 and 4 and 2 and 5, something like that. या फिर उल्टा था इसका, but something like this, something around this. I think the key in this question was this 3 9 6 6 6. सबसे पहला की तो मेरे ख्याल से ये था. Oh yes, some of you are telling me कि ये भी 15 ही था, तो हाँ सही कह रहे हो क्या आप, तो ये 15 ही रहा होगा. Let me just erase it now. So through ranks we got these as well. तो यहाँ पे 9 था तो ये 6 आ रहा था, and 6 was I think ये छोटा नंबर था, it was 2 and this was 4, or this was 1 and this was 5, right guys? ऐसा ही कुछ हुआ था ना. और यहाँ पे भी 2 possibilities आ रही थी. So the total of this guy, because in one of the questions he asked you that if the total of this person is a multiple of 3, he gave you 24 or something, then what can be this number, something like that. One question was there on the basis of this only, उसी के basis पे हम लोगों ने ये करा था. But अगर ये मिल गया होगा, ये मिल गया होगा, after that you must have got this 5 5 and 6, 5 7 and 3 and 3 7 and 6. ये सब आ जा रहे थे, but last वाले की there were 2 possibilities. I think one was 7 and 5 and one was 8 and 4, if I'm not wrong. These were the 2 possibilities for the last case as well, right? This was 7 and 5, 8 and 4, क्योंकि ये तो unique highest बताया गया था, तो और कोई तो नंबर कुछ हो नहीं सकता था. These were the only possibilities that we have had, right? If I'm not wrong, this is all that you also must have got. So rights वाले के बारे में अभी भी आप लोग बात कर रहे हैं, but I would not remember that all now. ठीक है, क्योंकि करते वक्त बहुत कुछ याद नहीं रहता. ये मुझे हल्का हल्का अब ये नंबर्स याद आ रहे हैं, so I'm able to tell you that I remember these, but not all do I remember. Okay, please discuss company question. No, we don't have the questions with us currently, Priyabrata, so we can't discuss those questions. I mean, remember some of the parts of it, so that's what I'm discussing with you. Because some of the key things, when we get them, that okay, these are the key things, that we have got 3 9 6 6, we got 15 15 16 16. If a person would have reached this point, probably they would have got the other data as well. By that logic, I am saying that if you have reached this point, probably you have got the right answer. Then you must not have made some mistakes, in my opinion. Okay, so as some of you are saying it was 3 rides and some of you are saying it were 4 rides. Rides वाला I repeat currently don't remember क्या था. हाँ, companies वाले के बारे में जहां तक मुझे याद है. So in companies वाला case there was one very important point that I figured out initially, that was he always said it started from 1 and it ended with 1. So it kept on increasing, after that it kept on decreasing, which clearly tells me that the order can always be reversed. For example, in case of companies, the first company, I'm sure you all must have got it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 10 plus 5, 15. The total was given as 21. So 3, 2, 1, right? You all must have got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1. Now if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1 is possible, that means the reverse of that is also possible. So I can also reverse it and I can say 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You have to start from 1, you have to reach 1 and you keep on going up and then you come down, right? तो अगर मैं यहाँ से ऊपर जाके से नीचे आ रहा हूँ तो इसी को रिवर्स कर दूंगा तो भी तो ऐसा लगेगा ना, that you are going up and coming down. So therefore for the first one there were 2 possibilities. You are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 1 or 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So exact inverse of that. But in one of the cases we got 1, 2, 4, 2, 1. I'm sure you all remember that. तो उसमें यूनिक मिल जा रहा है क्योंकि 1, 2, 4, 2, 1 है. अब 1, 2, 4, 2, 1 तो एक ही तरीके से बन सकता है, because even if you reverse it, it would still be 1, 2, 4, 2, 1. Similarly, there was another one which was like 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, whose total was equal to 9 CR. अब जो 9 CR वाला है वो भी 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 से ही बनेगा, and if you reverse it, it would still be showing you 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. But in the case in the middle, it was again becoming something like 1, 2, 3, 1, which could also become a reverse of it as well, 1, 3, 2, 1. So the first case was possible in 2 ways. I think the second case was also possible in 2 ways. The third had a unique possibility, the fourth had a unique possibility, and the last one, जो बिल्कुल end में आया था, that also had many possibilities. उसमें भी कुछ various possibilities आ रही थी. So as far as I remember, कुछ 2 ऐसे थे जिनके लिए exact पता लग जा रहा था, that what is the data for them, और बाकियों के लिए exact नहीं पता लगा. This is what I remember. As I repeat that currently I might not be remembering all the things. करते वक्त जो कुछ कुछ याद आया था वो मैं आप लोगों को बता रहा हूं, लेकिन मुझे एग्जैक्टली सब कुछ याद नहीं है. वंस द पेपर इज देयर इन 3-4 days विल बी मोर क्लियर विद दीज. बट हाँ, इस टाइम पे थोड़ा सा ये होता ही है दैट वी गेट एन आइडिया अबाउट दीज, तो शायद ज्यादा बेहतर हो जाता है. सो इसीलिए आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट दीज थिंग्स. तो यहाँ पे जो 21 वाला था, इट हैड 2 possibilities. This I think 7 wala, it has got 2 possibilities. The last one had got 2 possibilities. The other 2 were unique. This was the case in this case as well. Okay. So now can I see some messages? आप कुछ कुछ बोल रहे हैं. A does not wait after this. C and D उसके लास्ट में लिखा था, क्या लिखा था? सर स्नेहा कुछ कह रही हैं. So I mean the chats are moving very fast. Can you just repeat your questions, because there is a limit to it, to the point that I can see. C and D correct. C and D you can determine uniquely. Yes. A and B and E, they had various possibilities. C and D could be determined uniquely. ए के 2 केस बन रहे थे, बी के भी 2 केस बन रहे थे और ई के भी 2 केस बन रहे थे. बाकी दोनों के यूनिक केसेस थे. और यहां वही मैं कह रहा हूं, इफ यू हैव रीच्ड दिस पॉइंट, फिर आपने काफी कुछ ठीक कर लिया होगा. अगर यहां तक पहुंच गए हो, यू हैव गॉट इट, सो आई एम श्योर दैट यू वुड हैव डन इट देन. ओके. In ball question was any answer cannot be determined. In ball's question was there? I don't think there was anyone which was cannot be determined. Sneha, I don't remember that. Yeah. ठीक है, मिनिमम इज 11. अच्छा, अब आप कुछ बात कर रहे हैं जो मुझे नहीं पता है. एनीवेज, I'll move ahead from here. So that was about LRDI, whatever I remember. Let's talk about quant now. ठीक है. Probably you would be eagerly waiting for that now. So अब quant के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं. ये हम लोगों ने कर लिया है. Let's talk about quantitative ability. There were 9 questions in arithmetic, 7 questions in algebra, 3 in number system, 3 in geometry. And what I saw that when I started doing quantitative ability section, honestly speaking, बिल्कुल सच सच बता रहा हूँ आप लोगों को कि I actually had problem this time writing the questions, because generally till now whenever I've appeared, so most of the times I've been able to complete all the questions within the time. वो और बात है, बहुत सारे गलत हो जाते हैं, लेकिन मैं सारे कर लेता हूँ. This time I could not do all the questions. Some of the questions I was not able to solve. right? At that time, it took me so much of time. Then I left it. I moved on to the next question. वो किया, वापस आया, फिर से नहीं हुआ. So such kind of questions were there. And initially, my process is like that only, that I start moving. तो एक क्वेश्चन करता हूं, नहीं आता, छोड़ देता हूं, दूसरे पे आता हूं, फिर उसको देख के छोड़ देता हूं, तीसरे पे आता हूं. This also I did this time, but when I came back to those questions, somehow I saw कि बहुत बार वो हो ही नहीं पाया. That was not possible for me. Okay. So that actually happened with me. So, but still, I remember some of the questions which I have written at some of the places. So, I will be discussing those questions with you. कुछ तो हम लोगों को याद आ जाएंगे, कम से कम ये हो जाएगा कि हाँ यार, ये तो मेरे मार्क्स जो हैं पक्का ही सही है. Last one we can remove values 13231. 13231 पक्का possible नहीं है. शुभम प्रजापति, I think it would be 12321. If I have written 13231, probably हो सकता है I might have written it wrong, right? And 12421 is definitely possible. 12421, either of the ways. Okay. Chaliye, let's start talking about this now. So here we start with the first question. There was a question which was saying 20% of the workers in a company are in manufacturing department. Total salary of manufacturing department is 1/6 of the total salary of all the employees. So you have to find the ratio of the average salary of them. In my opinion, the answer was I think 4:5, right? Because I remember I got 20 on one side, 80 on the other side, and the salary was 1/6. So I took 1,000 here and 5,000 here, and when I got the ratio, it gave me 4:5. So vaguely I remember these numbers. Let's forget about LRDI for some time now. I see that some of you are still discussing about it. ठीक है? As I have already said, अब सब कुछ याद भी नहीं रह पाएगा मुझे, right? I don't remember all those things. So whatever I could, I have discussed it. So let's start talking about quant questions. Let's get some quant answers correct. ठीक है? कुछ quant answer ठीक मिलेंगे. We'll start feeling good about today at least. So this was the first one, the easiest probably. Many of you would have got it correct. 4:5. In my opinion, this was the easiest question of quantitative ability, right? No sitters. Even I would not consider this question as a complete sitter, but हाँ, ये सबसे easiest रहा होगा. So I'll be discussing some of the questions currently with you. Then the questions that I have left, you can just remind me them. तो वो याद आ जाएंगे क्योंकि मैंने किए हैं questions, तो याद आ जाने वाले हैं. तो मुझे याद दिला दीजिएगा एक बार. Then there was a question based upon price of precious stone is directly proportional to square of its weight. And Sita has a precious stone weight 18 units. If it breaks it into 4 pieces, each piece with distinct integral weight. So I currently don't remember the answer of that question, the exact data of that question. But you guys can remind me. I think the answer was something like 1296000. Was that the answer? Can you guys tell me what answer did you get? तो मुझे कुछ ऐसा याद आ रहा है शायद इसका आंसर 1296000 आया था, because 18 was to be divided into 4 parts. So I took squares of those 4 parts and added. So those 4 parts, उसके लिए हम लोगों को एक maximum चाहिए था sum, minimum sum चाहिए था. Their difference was given as 2,88,000 or something, and from that we got it, right? So I got this is the answer. So Aman Joshi is saying that this is the correct answer. Aditya Malik also got it. Himanshu Agrawal भी यही कह रहे हैं. तो अगर 3-4 लोगों का मैच कर रहा है तो most probably फिर यही आंसर रहा होगा. So let's assume this as the answer for that question. Then A borrows 2 lakh rupees and at 8% per annum compounding semi-annually, right? He repays 10320 at the end of the first year, and then he decides to pay the money after a few years, something of that sort. I think the answer for that question was something around 51,130 something, ऐसा कुछ करके एक option था. The answer was 51,000 something. That I remember. The correct answer for this question was 51,000 something. Okay? I think this was the या तो ये 51311 था या 51131 था, but yes, this was the correct answer for this question. Next question, there was a question of pipe. 3 pipes were there. Pipe A, B and C, out of which B is a draining pipe, then B takes 1 hour less than pipe A. Now this was one question actually which hit my ego, honestly speaking, because arithmetic is something in which I always feel that I am very good. So at the end, when the time was left, I came back to this question, I started doing it, and I spent another 3-4 minutes on this question, but still could not do it. right? So even after spending approximately 5 minutes, I could not do that question. I currently do not know the figures as well. Otherwise, I probably would have done and discussed it with you. But I don't remember that. There was a question of pipes too. Then a question, Ravi is driving at 40 km per hour, Vijay is 54 meters behind. And there was another person, I think Ashok, who was 225 meters ahead of that. So what was the speed? I think the speed in that case was 61.6 km per hour. Did you guys also get it? I vaguely remember it was 40 plus 108 by 5. So 108 by 5 is 21.6. Yes, it was 61.6. That's what I got the answer. पाइप वाला easiest था क्वेश्चन की लाइट में राइट लाइन में आंसर था. अरे यार डराओ मत ऐसे राघव, आई विल हैव डाउट्स ऑन मी. ये मत लिखो पाइप वाला easiest था. मतलब मुझे एक्चुअली लग रहा है कि सडनली मेरी एज 30 साल और बढ़ गई है. सो स्पीड वाले का आंसर आई एम श्योर आप सब लोगों का भी यही आएगा. ओ यस, मेनी ऑफ यू आर सेइंग 61.6. यस, सो लुक्स लाइक यस दैट इज द राइट आंसर देन. ओके, वेरी गुड. चलिए जी आगे बढ़ जाते हैं. नेक्स्ट देयर वाज अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ 40 liters of milk, 4 liters of milk was removed and replaced. How many times that should be done such that finally the question says that quantity of milk should become less than that of water? The answer is 7 times. Because every time it is becoming 90% of that. तो कोई चीज अगर 90% होती चली जाएगी, so after one time it will become 90%, second time it will become 81%, third time it will become 72.9%. And then I said, अगर 3 बार में वो 72.9% बन रहा है, that is approximately 73%, तो 6 बार में कितना हो जाएगा? तो 73 का स्क्वायर, एंड स्क्वायर ऑफ 73 एक्चुअली कम्स टू बी ग्रेटर देन दैट ऑफ 50. 52 पॉइंट समथिंग आता है. इसका मतलब इवन आफ्टर डूइंग इट 6 टाइम्स, राइट, मिल्क इज अप्रोक्सीमेटली 52% ऑफ द टोटल, विच इज नॉट लेस देन वाटर. लेस देन वाटर होने के लिए इट शुड बी लेस देन 50% ऑफ द टोटल. 50% से कम हो जाना चाहिए था. एंड देयरफॉर बाय दैट लॉजिक आई एम सेइंग माय आंसर शुड हैव बीन 7 टाइम्स फॉर दिस क्वेश्चन. सो कह रहे उदय, कह रहे बच गया, और गोजो कह रहे नाच गया. प्रोबेबली ही वांट्स टू से बच गया. ठीक है, तो बहुत लोग बच गए होंगे मेरे ख्याल से. इसमें कोई फंस भी गया होगा, किसी का हो सकता है आंसर इसमें 6 आया हो, बट ये 7 वाज द राइट आंसर एज पर मी. आई रिपीट, जहां आपको कुछ और आंसर लग रहा हो मुझे बताइएगा जरूर. प्रोबेबली वी कैन चेक, मतलब हो सकता है आंसर कुछ और हो और मैं गलत कर रहा हूं. सो वी कैन डिस्कस इट एज वेल. क्वेश्चन में आफ्टर विच पूछा था, तो आफ्टर 7th ही तो होगा ना. व्हेन यू डू द प्रोसेस फॉर द 7th टाइम, राइट, देन इट वुड बी हैपनिंग. ठीक है, तो मेरे ख्याल से वो आंसर यही था. एनीवेज, ज्यादातर लोग जो बोलेंगे उसको लेके चलेंगे फिर, राइट. ऑफ कोर्स सम ऑफ यू माइट गेट द रॉन्ग आंसर्स एज वेल. Then there was a question of that this rectangle. In this rectangle, he said there is a point P here, there is a point Q here, and their areas were in a ratio of 1:2:4. I mean, it was given that they are in GP series. Finally said that this area is 4 times of this area. GP series में अगर 4 times है तो पक्का 4 के 2 के और के बनेंगे. Total area was 54. और यहां से उसने आपसे पूछा था कि इन तीनों के एरियाज का रेशो बताइए. I think that answer came out to be 1:2:1. What is your answer? Please tell me. आप लोग भी बताइए आपका कितना स्कोर आया है इसमें. I got 1:2:1 in this particular question of this geometry, and I found this question okay type from the perspective of this paper. हाँ, मतलब इस पेपर के पर्सपेक्टिव से बोलोगे तो आप बोलोगे हाँ यार चलो एक ओके क्वेश्चन आया था, वो ये था, which gave me the answer at 1:2:1. Right? Please tell me what is your answer for this question. Anyone? गौरव पॉल कह रहे हैं कि मेरा भी यही आंसर आया है. आप लोग जरा बताएंगे. प्रियांशु, आप क्वेश्चन एपी क्वेश्चन आंसर आता हूं उस पर भी. ओके, सो स्किप्ड 1:1 गौरव पॉल का आया, अथर्वा का भी यही आया है. सो सम ऑफ यू नॉट अटेम्प्टेड इट. एनीवेज, आगे बढ़ जाते हैं. देन देयर वाज अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ नंबर ऑफ positive numbers at less than 50 who has exactly 2 distinct factors other than 1 itself. 2 distinct factors other than 1 and itself. So I don't exactly remember the answer, but I remember the number would be either a cube of a prime or the number would be product of 2 primes. So there were 2 cubes that were 8 and 27, and then you have to count it because theta question था, तो इसलिए मुझे इस साइड आंसर याद नहीं है exactly कितना आया था. There are 2 primes 8 and 27, and then P1 into P2 टाइप के जो 50 से कम है. So 2 into 3, 2 into 5, 2 into 7 up to 2 into 23. फिर 3 into 5, 3 into 7, 3 into 11, 3 into 13, 3 into बस यहाँ तक, और फिर 5 into 7 और एक 5 बस. These were the numbers. तो एक बार आप ये गिन लीजिए कितने आते हैं. 2 के साथ 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19 and 23, that makes it 8. 8 के बाद फिर 3 के साथ 5, that is 9. 3 के साथ 7, 3 के साथ 11, 3 के साथ 13, और उसके बाद 5 के साथ 7, and then 8. 15 should be the answer in my opinion. 15 is the correct answer for this question. जो भी गिनने में आ रहा है मेरे ख्याल से वो 15 ही है, तो I think 15 should be the correct answer. Okay? So I'm telling you the 15 numbers. सीधा सीधा गिन लीजिए. 2 into a prime up to 23. So 2 into 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23. 3 into prime up to 13. So 3 into 5, 7, 11 and 13. और उसके अलावा 5 into 7, and apart from that there are two more numbers which are the cubes. 8 and 27. 8 has two factors apart from 1 and 8, that is 2 and 4. 27 has two factors apart from 1 and 27, that is 3 and 9. So therefore the correct answer for this question is 15. So आप लोग अब नहीं बोल रहे हैं, मैं देख रहा हूँ YouTube पे. जब पहले VA का सेशन चल रहा था तब आप क्वांट ही क्वांट डिस्कस करे जा रहे थे. Now tell me guys, please, I need to know it from you as well, that is this the right answer or not? Did you get it or not? मुझे बताइएगा जरूर साथ साथ. Then I'll be discussing more questions. Plus I told you about the number of likes as well. That is also very less, guys. Please do that. That's very, very important for me. Please do that. I'll move ahead now. Let k be the largest positive integer such that x minus 1 ka square plus 2kx plus 11 is equal to 0. A question which was not worth doing during the exam. आपको नहीं करना चाहिए था मेरे ख्याल से. तो इसका जो correct answer आया था, question asked about x by 4y plus 9y. इसकी minimum value उसने पूछी थी. And the minimum value I got as, क्या आया था मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है. x by x की वैल्यू तो 4 आई थी. I think 4 was the answer, है ना? Did you guys also got 4 as the answer? As far as I remember, the answer for this question was 4. और इसका लॉजिक ये था, पहले तो आपने इसका डिस्क्रिमिनेंट लेस देन 0 रखा, वहां से x माइनस 1 का स्क्वायर इज लेस देन कितना आया था 12. तो x की लार्जेस्ट पॉसिबल वैल्यू वाज इक्वल टू 4, और x की जब लार्जेस्ट पॉसिबल वैल्यू हम लोगों के पास 4 आई थी, तो उसके बाद देयर प्रोडक्ट इज इक्वल टू कितना आया था 9. सो 3 + 3 6 आना चाहिए शायद आंसर. फिर आई थिंक 6 वाज द आंसर फॉर दिस क्वेश्चन, नॉट 4. 3 + 3 6. चलिए आगे बढ़ जाते हैं. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन वाज ऑन लॉगरिथम, वेयर द क्वेश्चन आस्क्ड अबाउट log ऑफ 3x स्क्वायर with base of 3. Log of 3x square with base of 3. What answer was there for this question? I got something like log x square to the base 3 is equal to 6. So x square was 3 to the power 6. Was the answer 7 for this? Yes, 6. I think 6 or 7 was the correct answer, because 16 minus 3 and then plus 2 by 3 was becoming 6. तो 3 into x square बना था आपका 3 to the power 7. I think 7 was the right answer for this question. Do you guys remember it? X square came out to be 6, but 3x square came out to be 7. So 7 was the right answer. That's what I remember. अच्छा, अब कुछ लोग पूछ रहे हैं प्रॉफिट वाला क्वेश्चन या ही गया है. देखिए एक एक करके क्वेश्चन आएंगे. आई थिंक वट एवर क्वेश्चन यू हैव इन योर माइंड विल बी डिस्कसिंग दैट एज वेल. कहीं ना कहीं आ ही जाएगा. मीनू सेल्स एन आर्टिकल फॉर ₹1000 टू समवन एट 20% प्रॉफिट. देन कनु सेल्स इट बैक टू तनु एट 20% प्रॉफिट. मीनू सेल्स इट टू तनु वंस अगेन, एंड देन शी गॉट ₹500 प्रॉफिट. सो वी गॉट ₹200 प्रॉफिट उसका इनिशियली था, और ₹300 प्रॉफिट उसका सेकेंड से आया था. आई थिंक दिस वॉज did you get 15 by 48 guys? यही आया था ना? I think it came out to be 15 by 48 and the answer was something around 31 point something %. Please tell me on the YouTube guys, कुछ ऐसा ही आंसर आया था? Was it like 31 point something? Oh yes, अमन जोशी says 31.25, हर्ष, प्रियांशु, अथर्व, अब तो सब लोग यही कह रहे हैं, तो यही आंसर होना चाहिए. Yes, that's right. So the correct answer, मुझे भी अच्छा लग रहा है कि मेरे भी आंसर ठीक हुए हैं. So 31.25% is the right answer. यही था ऑप्शन में. 15 by 48 आया था as far as I remember. 15 by 48. हालांकि वो 3 से कैंसिल आउट हो गया, 5 by 16 बन जा रहा था, and 5 by 16 is 31.25%. That's right. आगे बढ़ जाते. So what other questions were there? Let's start talking about them as well. Yes, there was a question on this, guys. There was another question that we had On m and n, there are natural numbers m and n such that k divides m plus 2n and 3m plus 4n. So k must be dividing. The answer for that question was m and 2n. The answer for this question is m and 2n. How did we get this answer? Actually, the simple logic used was कि अगर कोई दो नंबर किसी एक नंबर से divisible होते हैं, then their difference is also divisible by that, or their multiples are also divisible by that. जैसे मान लीजिए हम लोगों को ये दिया हुआ उसने कि m plus 2n divisible है, और एक दिया हुआ था 3m plus 4n divisible है, something like this, right? So I would just double it. Double करो तो कितना आता है? It will be 2m plus 4n. This would also be divisible. Now this is divisible, this is divisible, so their difference, that is m, would also be divisible. By that logic we said m is also divisible by k. Secondly, अगर मैं इसका ट्रिपल कर दूं तो ट्रिपल करके आएगा 3m plus 12n. नहीं, ये 2n 4n नहीं था, यहाँ पे कुछ और था. If you guys remember it, कुछ और था, और यहाँ पे आ गया आपके पास 3m plus 4n. So by subtracting it, I am getting 2n, something like this it was coming. So m and 2n. ये शायद फिगर्स गलत लिखे, मैं बार बार कह रहा हूँ, वो याद नहीं है सब कुछ, तो हो सकता है मैंने कुछ ऊपर नीचे यहाँ पे लिख दिया हो, बट यू वुड गेट इट, ठीक है, जिसके बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ. सो ट्रिपल कर दो, ओह सॉरी 3m plus 6n आएगा ना, हाँ सही तो आ रहा है, 2n यही था. m and 2n were divisible by it, and I repeat, as Crawl Stars is saying, please repeat करिए, explain कर दीजिए. मैं बता दूं आपको, we were just discussing the answers here, right? We will be discussing the complete paper later on once the paper is out with us. अभी तो we are just doing memory based questions. एक बार जब पेपर थोड़े दिन में आ जाएगा, I think within 3 or 5 days you will be having all the response sheets. उसके साथ question आ ही जाते हैं सबके सब. We will be discussing all of them in details. Don't worry. What next? There was a question which was talking about this a to the power m into b to the power n is equal to 144 to the power 145, and a, b, m, n are natural numbers. What is the largest possible value of n minus m? The largest possible value of n minus m, it was 579. The largest possible value of n minus n that I got was 579. I repeat, I want this from you as well. I want to confirm it. As again I am saying, I have not discussed these questions with anyone, so currently I do not know that what should be the right answer. This is what I have got. I got 579. Some of you are saying 290. I'll just tell you the logic. Why did I say so? This became 2 raised to the power 580 into 3 raised to the power 290. Probably therefore many of you would have got the answer as 580 minus 290 as 290. Initially even I got it, right? मैं बता दूं आपको, पहले मेरा भी यही आंसर आया था. लेकिन actually what can I do? I can write this as 2 to the power 580 into, I can write this as 3 to the power 290 raised to the power 1. I can call this as A, I can call this as B, I can call this as N, and I can call this as M. A and B were greater than 1. N and M were not greater than 1. It was not given that N and M were greater than 1. And therefore, many of you might have got the answer as 290. This was the first answer even I got. Right? A और B 1 से बड़े तो अभी भी है. इसको मैं 2 ले रहा हूँ और इसको 3 की पावर 290 ले रहा हूँ. But इस 3 की पावर 290 की पावर जो 1 है, that's a natural number. Right? Which is not necessarily greater than 1. Question did not say कि वो 1 से बड़ा होना चाहिए. So by that logic, we got 1 here, 580 here, and the answer should have been 579. Right? कोई बात नहीं, कोई गलत भी होगा, बहुत सारे ठीक भी तो हुए हैं ना. So कुछ गलत भी होने बनते हैं. That's pretty much possible. उसके अलावा, is there any other question that you guys remember now? I don't have anything else. Yes. So ये question इसमें लिखे हुए थे, but as far as I remember, there was a question of AP series. There are 2 AP series, 13 plus 6 times of n minus 1. The other one was 15 plus 7 times of n minus 1. And the question was asking that what is the largest possible common term? Do you guys remember that? Largest 3-digit number, which is a common term among them. The answer was 862 for that question. 862 was the right answer. There are 2 AP series, right? One was 13 plus 6 times of n minus 1. One was 15 plus 7 times of n minus 1. Right? Oh yes, 967. You are right. 967 was the right answer. मैं उल्टा बोल रहा हूँ. Because there was a common difference of 42. So 42 was being added into that. Right? So 967 was the answer. There was another question in which he said A1 is equal to B9, and then A19 is equal to B19, and then B1 is equal to 0. Sorry, B2 is equal to 0. So what is the value of A19? The answer for that question was 79. The answer for that question was 79. How many of you got 79 there? Please tell me through the chat box. इसमें कितने लोगों का 79 आया? Shirts वाले का question I did not do it. Actually, I don't remember the answer for that. I did not do that question of two kind of shirts are there. One is 1,000 rupees per piece, one is 1150 rupees per piece, and total profit is 51,000. I did not do that question. But how many of you got 79 here? I got 79 is the answer. 3 pipes A and B. Yes, as I talked about it, Sarthak Arora did not do that question. I found it extremely difficult. So left that question. Yes, 79. Okay, yes. So Chirag has got 84, but most of you have got 79. So we'll go by democracy here. तुक्का मारा था 79. तुक्का अच्छा, it was with options. Yes. तो वरना टीटा में 79 का तुक्का बड़ा अजीब हो जाता. T-shirt rupees 1,000 and blue shirt 1125. Yes, yes. I don't remember the answer of that question. So Frozen, that question you are talking about. Any other question, guys, that comes to your mind? I might be skipping any other question. Oh, this question is there with many of you. 3 rides or 4 rides in DILR. So we don't know. I mean, currently I have 2 answers from 2 people, and one is saying 3 rides, one is saying 4 rides. Please ask whether shirts answer. Whom should I ask, Shivam? I'll ask you only. Is the answer 47? Sir, modulus x and y. Oh yes, there was a question of coordinate geometry, right? Modulus of x and y. The answer for that question was 4. You had to find the area. The area between y-axis and x is equal to 5. And then there was an equation given to use, I mean modulus of x minus 2y or something. So the right answer for that I got as 4. Any other question, guys? 352 rupees divided. I don't remember that question. थोड़ा सा और बताइए क्या था? Factors वाला we have already discussed, Sahil. We have already discussed that. Milk वाला we have discussed, Devans. The answer is 7 for that. Oh, x by y I remember, Suprit, but I don't know the answer of that question as well. I think something like y is greater than minus 10, y less than minus 10. Don't remember the answer for that. Yes, there was a question on this circles as well. In a circle, one side is equal to the diameter and the other 2 sides are A and B. And the question asked you that what is the area of the triangle. The answer for that question was 2r square into A into B upon square root of A square plus B square. This I remember. That was the answer for it. 2r square into AB upon square root of A square plus B square. Maxima and minima difference P cube minus Q cube. P cube minus Q cube. Yes, this question was there. The difference between maximum value and minimum value. I think it was 378. This is what you got, guys. एक बार आप भी याद दिलाओ. Did anyone got 378 for that P cube minus Q cube question? 352 rupees divided among n children by a gentleman. Oh yes, that question was also there. So the value of n was to be calculated there. And n was given as, I got 22n less than equal to, or n is less than equal to something. I think 74 or something. वो याद नहीं आ रहा मुझे क्या आंसर था उसका. n persons was correct. वो ठीक है. बाकी कुछ याद नहीं आ रहा उसमें. Yes, anyone does it? Do you remember it? 378 वाला question, P cube minus Q cube. Anyone? 6 right, is this good for quant? Rahul, 6 right means you are approximately 90 to 93 percentile in quant, in my opinion. So that's good enough, I suppose. 352 वाला, हाँ मुझे question याद आ रहा है, exact पूरा question याद नहीं आ रहा. I remember there was a question that 352 divided into n minus 1 people. Then 2 people are given some different amount and then it was divided into remaining people and the average was less than equal to 330. But I don't remember the answer now. N is 16. I don't remember. Possibly 16. Okay, many of you are saying 16. So इतने लोगों का 16 है तो जनरली फिर करेक्ट ही होता है. हाँ अब याद मुझे भी नहीं आ रहा है. ठीक है, I think I don't remember more questions now. If anything comes to your mind, so please tell us, guys. So that was all about quantitative ability. Once again, I would say definitely difficult than last year, right? So मुश्किल तो था ही था, तो देखते हैं मतलब क्या रहता है इस बार. So now, when I talk about a comparison of slot 1 and slot 2, so slot 1 was almost of the same type, so do not think that it happened with you only. If you talk to the slot 1 guys, they are also saying कि sir यही problem है, the quantitative ability was quite difficult, so there also it was difficult. LRDI once again it was of the same kind, even there as well. So दोनों जगह की कहानी तकरीबन same ही है. So what we feel currently that these are the score versus percentiles now. Okay, what's going to happen this year? This is our idea. So what has happened? So in CAT 2022, out of a total 198 marks, which is still the same, still we have 198 marks. So out of 198, last time a person who got 110 had a 99.9 percentile, and at 93 we had 99.5 percentile. Now a good student must be looking for at least a 99 percentile, right? Which we feel this time is going to be just a question lower than that of CAT 2022. Because VARC more or less is almost on the same level, right? One question above or one question below. Once again, DILR, I would say, once again, it's almost of the same level. Quant is the only area which is slightly difficult. But yes, when I'm talking about the people who are having 99.5 percentile, so they would still be doing almost at the same pace, right? Sitters were not there, but of course that time would be used in doing some other questions, right? There were more moderate questions at this stage. So therefore it will be slightly below that, whereas at 95 percentile would be lying at around 2 questions below that of last year. A 95 percentile would be around 2 questions below last year. 48.5 पे आपका 90 percentile आ रहा था, वो भी तकरीबन आपका एक क्वेश्चन नीचे चला जाएगा. तो ये मान के चलिए that almost all the percentiles are going to be approximately 1 to 2 questions lower than that of last year, right? 1 to 2 questions मतलब 3 to 6 marks आप बोल सकते हैं. तो तकरीबन उसके आसपास नीचे चला जाने वाला आपका कट ऑफ. Okay guys, so still we would want you guys to just share your scores, what you are expecting in VARC, LRDI and quantitative ability in the comment section. It's also a random sample, so we can just get an idea that how many people are getting what scores. And if possible, can you just tell us that what is your average score in the mock tests as well that you have appeared till now? Okay, so from that we'll get an idea that a person who is always getting 90 to 93 percentile, this time is getting a score of 45 or expecting a score of 50 in the actual CAT section. So what's happening? So if possible, please share that. Tanu Manu, we have already discussed it. Kaushik, if you just go back a little bit, so you'll see the answer for that question. The answer for that question was 31.25%. We have already discussed it. Okay everyone, so that's all from our side, and please do not forget to tune in at 8:30 p.m. for the slot 3 analysis. This is especially for the people who are in slot 3. You guys are not, but at 9:45 p.m. today only, at 9:45 p.m. we all will be there with you with our expertise of all the 3 slots, because there are 2-3 people who have appeared in slot 1, 2-3 people have appeared in slot 2, 2-3 have appeared in slot 3. Then we all would be discussing the 3 slots together at 9:45 p.m. We'll be talking about the normalization as well, that probably in this slot we feel that quant was little more difficult, LRDI was little less difficult. So we'll be just giving you a normalized picture at 9:45. Once we all sit together, we discuss that in which slot quant was difficult, in which slot DILR, in which slot VARC was difficult, and then we'll come up with a picture that okay, in this slot at this score you can expect this much of percentile. So all those things would be discussed at 9:45 p.m. and we might have a few more informations about these questions of LRDI or quant or VARC by that time. So you probably, if you have any kind of questions, we can discuss those as well at that time. Okay, so that's all from our side, and do not forget to just go to this percentile predictor and score predictor which is there right on our app. So once you get your this response sheet, just put in there, you'll get to know about your scores, and that score can also tell you about your percentile.
So all those things that we talked about, a question being easy, difficult, this right answer, that right answer, all that expertise is being poured into this at the back end. And the moment you start putting in your responses, I think this is going to give you a very accurate result.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is a very good tool actually that we have provided you, that you can actually predict your percentile. And the best part of that is, once I'm able to predict my percentile, so I can choose a college as well according to that. The colleges which are having their last date in the coming 5 days or 10 days. So once I get to know that, okay, because this happens sometimes, we have seen it with many of the students, they are not happy with their results because it is not expected as per their lines. लेकिन हुआ ये कि वो आपकी expectation से दूर है, but still it might fetch you an MDI call, right? True. You are thinking, oh, I've got just 40, 45 score. What college can I think of? But who knows, at a score of 45, 50, you might get a college like MDI. So why don't you fill it right? So therefore, this tool is going to be very useful for you. Get to know about the reality. कम आ रहा होगा तो वैसे भी आ ही रहा है, वो आपको पता ही है. लेकिन ज़्यादा आ रहा होगा तो you might get benefit out of it. Use it, guys. Okay? So, and also about this college predictor, right? This we have been telling you for a long time, and we have made this tool with a lot of research, right? About all the IIMs, we have seen what is their selection criteria, what do they look at, 10th में क्या चाहिए, 12th में क्या चाहिए, किस तरह का profile चाहिए, वो सारा.
Your gender, your academic stream, the board or the university you are from. So the way the IIMs go ahead and bring everybody at par and give everybody a bit of handicap, and some extra marks here and there. You input your information and we can give you a rather thorough assessment of what percentile will work for you for a particular college when it comes to getting a call. So maybe you have a stellar profile and therefore, as I said, Saral sir said at a certain score you can get MDI, but maybe you can get something even better. Absolutely. Keeping the profile in mind. So,
and many people actually do not know about it. Therefore, it is very important.
We just focus only on percentiles and CAT prep. This is something that's absolutely amazing. So do that.
Okay guys, so that's all for right now, but as we said, we will be again with you at 9:45. I, Vikrant sir, our whole team who appeared for all the 3 slots, and we'll talk about all 3 slots together.
स्टूडियो में आग जलाना अलाउड नहीं है, नहीं तो बॉनफायर करके मूंगफलियां खाते हुए चाय वाय के ऊपर बात कर सकते थे. But nonetheless, even if those things are not there, I'm sure we bring a lot of firecrackers nonetheless, right?
Chalo, all the best guys. So let's meet at 9:45.
Third slot analysis and then 9:40.
We'll meet here.
See you there.
Okay, bye. हो गया सर?